There, welcome back to another video. This is the Smell of Logic channel, and I am Ramona. And this little video is going to be, do you know anyone who has personal experience with demonic possession? And also, tagline are exorcisms real? I do find this topic disturbingly interesting. So we're going to do a video. Ready? Okay, first one. Not demonic possession, and I don't get into too much detail on it, but I knew a gentleman who had a devotion to La Santa Muerta, and he'd place like dead animals on the altar and got a demon tattooed on him. My sister broke his altar, and somehow he knew about it, but I mean, there could have been a few explanations for that. My sister had a wall with pictures of her and her family, and there was more than a few pictures like the wall was covered. So when everyone was sleeping, the pictures of her family and kids, they were all thrown down from the wall. We thought possibly there was a light earthquake, but no cause. Everything else was still fine, just the pictures hanging on the wall when they were torn down. He was not there when this happened, but it woke us all up. Anyway, the gentleman by court order was told to leave the house, and when he left there was this awful smell, like horrible. It stunk up the whole house. We thought someone might have left poop, but didn't flush it, and there was a dead animal, but we couldn't find anything. We looked everywhere, and the smell went away on its own. Never had a priest come in the house, or bless it, as my sister is not a religious person. But yeah, man, there's some dark things out there. I personally know a former exorcist, and as a Byzantine priest, he was the only exorcist with a family in the world, and his family. This, with his daughter and his son-in-law, I am weekly, so we know each other pretty well. So that's supposed to be we see weekly. He had plenty of stories to tell, as he was the only exorcist in my country, for both Byzantine and Latin Church, for a long time. Later, some other priests were assigned, as he had so many people planned for months in advance. Now, each diocese has one, and they still have much to do. The big exorcism is necessary only in a few cases. Usually there are several steps of prayer, so from common prayer, there are some prayers are freeing the person from the big exorcism. And he told us stories how a small girl, maybe 500 kilograms, threw him across the room. At the time, he had been around 120 kilograms. He told us once that there was some museum of exorcisms where there were items that people threw up during the exorcisms, and they were really weird items. And someone asked, "Where is this museum?" And they replied, "Was somewhere in Italy. I think Rome, but I'm not sure. It was a pretty long time ago," and he just mentioned it. I have never been possessed, but I was attacked by demons for a few months in 2015 after I realized they were behind a group I was involved with, and I left it. I experienced so many things over the course of these months: burning on my left side, a sick feeling in my stomach, especially when I prayed the rosary or went to Mass, seeing things like a vicious animal, I think it was a wolverine, leaping out at me from under my desk, a message coming up on my computer for the first and only time that said "Dragon's Assistant," obscene words appearing on a television screen, along with weird images, having something interfere with the beating of my heart as I lie in bed, like a finger preventing the heart from beating. I thought that I would die that night. There was so much more. I contacted a young Monsignor at the Archdiocese who was either the diocesan exorcist or worked with him. He completely believed me and confirmed it was demonic. He met with me a number of times, praying with me, having me forgive all involved in the group, encouraging me. The attacks eventually stopped. I still carry his contact information in my wallet. That's actually a pretty good idea. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Vade retro satana. Let this be a lesson to all. Any practice that focuses on altering the mind, uses the spiritual, and is not approved by the Church, puts a soul at risk of possession. And someone replies with, "Yes, I have the St. Benedict medal." I do not know what all that means, but okay. I don't have personal experience with the exorcism side of it, but it is real and very dangerous. I used to not be a Catholic for most of my life, and before I converted was really into those ghost hunting shows like Ghost Hunters, etc. All of that is, pardon my French, BS. What they do is what they do has little to do with reality and more to do with showmanship, but it gets people wanting to go out and do that stuff, so it can potentially stir up attention. I believe that too. Uh, oh, there's a cat in my way. Sorry. I was such an idiot. There is such a thing as Catholic demonology, but it's not exactly a very sought after subject, for obvious reasons. It can and does open doors to the demonic, even a tiny bit. Be careful. Talk to your priest, make good confessions, and participate in the sacraments. A lot of exorcisms still take place in the Middle East. Demonic possessions are in fact very real. A lot of weird shit happens in that part of the world. Not just in that part of the world, in Italy alone, about 1 million people per annum seek an exorcism. The powers of evil know no geographical boundaries. They hunt for souls wherever they are and wherever they live. Yes, they are real. Possession and demonic influence is prevalent. The devil, who is much smarter than us, has no benefit on revealing himself to us, so most will not recognize influence or possession for what it is. Not a possession, but a friend in my parish had our pastor bless her sister's house. There was a room downstairs with a strong presence that would make sounds, be visible, shadowy flickers, and even touch people. After the house blessing, I believe he did a minor exorcism, he left them with holy water. The presence didn't come back after that. Exorcisms are real. Search for the St. Michael Center in Washington, D.C. They are a diocesan facility that handles exorcisms, and they run a blog where you will find stories. I don't recommend letting your curiosity run wild on the internet to find material on this stuff. There are few books by exorcists, interviews, and talks with them on YouTube. They are fine to consume, but it's not healthy to get obsessed with it. Someone replied with, I lived in a house that needed an exorcist, but the actual owner refused, so he couldn't do it. Took a few years after that for us to be able to get out and find our new place was free from infestation. Excuse me. I just finished Adam Blai's new book, The Exorcism Files. Worth a read, especially as it recounts the various ways people invite demons into their lives. He's an interesting guy, a layman who trains exorcists. Former, I don't know, it says, father maybe, I don't know. Ripperger also has a new book out, Dominion, The Nature of Demonic Warfare. There is apparently an expanded version of it intended only for the clergy. Exorcisms are certainly real, or else the church has been lying for 2,000 years, beginning with the Gospels themselves. I have a lot of experience with demons. I don't think I have seen a complete possession, but I would swear on a stack of Bibles that demons can and do manipulate people and are very precise. They can make you say exactly something or have a specific movement, and every time the way your day flows. And even time the way your day flows, sorry. They can make you think very specific things and give a vivid picture on your imagination. They can set up a chain of events that get a point across to you. I have never done black magic. I'm not delusional. I have been their target for 7 years. What they do is like making the whole world turn against you. And the replies were fascinating. Can you give me examples? I'm asking because this is something I have noticed. You will pray, and the moment you open the door, someone will say something about your prayer, and they won't even realize it. You will play a game, and someone on the mic across the world will be talking about your day, and the way they describe it is like mockery, but they aren't even talking to you. Someone walking by you will say something that you are thinking about. Movies, music, radios, and TV in general will be impossible to watch because they are like talking directly to you. Things you read will relate specifically to your exact situation in that moment. When you sin, something related to that sin will pop up to remind you constantly. These things will happen all day. It just won't stop. It will make you question reality. It takes a strong person to put up with that, and if you aren't ready, it's going to force you to be strong, because God isn't just going to let you die so you could fight it the whole way. I'm finally at a point where I have days more peaceful than not. They are ruining my life because of the sin I was in. I let it happen without realizing it. They had been working me my whole life to the point, so when the time to strike had come, you can't handle it, but God is the one true God. Amen. They can't stop him. I know the Spirit of God now. He is so strong. He is what has kept me making it through every day. God saved my life. And there was a reply with, you should consult a priest about this. I don't think this should be happening to you. You're no great saint hermit. you do mundane, secular, and even questionable things like watching about a murderer, then you experience this. There's several other replies there, and they're mostly just going back and forth, so we'll move on to another story. It went down the same rabbit hole you were going down about 11 years ago. Walk away now and forget it. Focus your energy on the blessings you get from God and the positives of loving your neighbor. All that there is darkness and evil. Leave it to the people that have to do it. I practiced New Age and occult spirituality. I studied them and integrated them into my life. I attempted to channel extraterrestrial spirits and astral projection many times, among other practices like energy manipulation and meditation. Sometimes, with the use of psychedelic drugs, I had an attachment with a being who deceptively fed my delusions and convinced me that it was helping my spiritual progress and others. It would give me messages for people, all pertaining to New Age ideals. The communication died down for a couple of weeks. The attachment I had turned on me. I felt energy invading my body and attacking my heart and brain. It felt like I was going to have a stroke and a heart attack simultaneously. It never took the driver's seat, so to speak, but it did have influence and even control over some of my cognitive facilities. It wouldn't talk to me and sound like voices in my head necessarily, but it would send complex thoughts and visualizations directly into my intellect when it would communicate. You don't know what evil is like until you experience one of these things, and you don't want to. This thing hated all that existed, including itself, because even itself was created by God. And oh boy, do they hate God. I'm not even sure hate or wrath is a true accurate word for to describe what they are like. It let me know it was going to take me. It let me know that it was going to do my loved ones through me, and then myself, much too gruesome to type. I told my wife about it and that I was going to kill myself because I knew I couldn't have the reins forever. And this was after I tried the New Age defenses and such talk to forums, and they never helped. She said no. So I said, okay, but I'm going to have to show you how to load and shoot this revolver because when I turn like a zombie, I don't want anyone to get hurt. She told me that she would talk to the priest. She had the phone number for one that she went to with her Catholic school. I called him, explained briefly, and he said that he would talk to the exorcist. Truth be told, I didn't believe it would help, but I loved my family and wanted it to be known I did what I could before I did this deed. Much to my surprise, the prayers he gave me to say in the meantime seemed to help, which made me willing to put some faith in Christ again. Then he called me back. He gave me a time to meet at the church for a minor exorcism rite. Halfway through, the energy I felt invaded my body had left. I remember the priest said, call me when you want to be a Catholic, as he walked out. Anyway, I have a meeting with him privately to join this faith, after I had done some extensive research for a month. I didn't need the RCIA because I was baptized validly Lutheran as a kid. I get confirmed next month and start receiving the sacraments. I've had no such symptoms since, and the exorcism was in February. I have a new life, and I couldn't be more thankful for God for using this to bring me home. Yes, the diabolical does exist, but I don't think about it now. God's love is much greater. When it comes to demonic possession, we don't know what causes it. False positives for possession do exist. Demonics tend to have certain common traits. The primary one is extreme repulsion or fear of holy relics and symbols. That is why you see therapists in the Balkans pour out glasses of water and medicine to offer to their patients. That's not 100% regular water. It's holy water. Another sign of manifesting knowledge that the possessed should not have. The ability to speak Cantonese like a native speaker despite having rare encounters with the language and never bothering to learn it. Not possession, but I did have an encounter once with the demonic. When I was in nursing school, we had a clinical rotation in a psychiatric unit. One of the patients came up to me and was insisting he was hearing voices and that they were demonic. It's a psychiatric unit, so that kind of thing is expected. We finished our rotation and I went home for the evening. Later that night, a strange wind started to blow on my curtain, in my window, like a pressure washer. It was like a hurricane-force wind, and I was terrified because the wind actually spoke to me. It said my name. It wanted me to open up. I kid you not. Let me tell you, I leaped out of bed so fast and did not go back to sleep, turning on every light in the house. In the morning, my brother, who was my roommate at the time, got home from work. He worked the night shift. I told him the whole story, and he didn't believe me. Obviously, it's a pretty wild story, so I don't blame him. The next evening, I was sleeping on the couch in my living room. I was too frightened to sleep in my own bed again. Around 2 a.m., my home phone rings. I was freaking out because no one calls me on that thing, let alone at that time of night. I did not get up to answer it. The person, whoever it was, had left me a voicemail. I was way too frightened to check the message. That morning, when my brother gets home from work, he saw the answering machine and says, "Hey, looks like someone left you a message." I feigned ignorance and said, "Oh, really?" and waited for him to play it. The message is from one of my friends. He apologized for calling me at that time of night, but that something strange happened to him. He was sleeping peacefully when a strange wind entered through his bedroom window, which he had left open, and he began to choke him. He said to call him back ASAP. At that point, I saw the blood drain from my brother's face. I just replied, "Now do you believe me?" I felt bad for not answering that phone call, but come on, you really think I was going to push my luck and hear that demonic thing on the other end of the line? I don't think so, Tim. If you want to know what makes devils scream and rage, it is the devout recitation of the rosary. I've seen it manifested. The rage that the rosary elicits from the demons is proportionate to the holy power that the rosary brings. The rosary is like a hammer to the skull of these fiends. Pray the rosary every day if you want to fight the devil. Not of possession, but I'm coming into the church and had experimented with the New Age stuff when I was younger. Had went on a retreat a couple of weeks ago, had an extremely powerful experience. After coming home, a few days later, I woke up with mysterious scratches on my back. I was in bed one night and had a demonic baby lunge at me. Another night, I was watching TV and looked at the top of the stairs and saw what clearly looked like a demonic nun. After a few seconds looking at each other, it ran down a few steps and disappeared. Thinking about that shit scares me. Yeah, it'd scare pretty much anyone, I would imagine. I don't have any personal experience with possession, but my dad is heavily involved in the occult before I was born. I don't know the full story, but this is what I do know. He found a pseudo-religious group, that's how I describe them, who mixed like folk magic with Catholicism. So being a Catholic, it was easier for my dad to be lured into this group. They basically practiced animal sacrifices, believed in demons, elves, otherworldly beings, and magic. At that time, my dad had severe anxiety and he was just trying to get himself better. Unfortunately, he trusted the wrong people and they really messed with him, psychologically speaking. They preyed on his weakness and kept him under their control. They would scare him, make him think he was cursed or that they were the only ones who could help him. When I was young, I remember seeing amulets all around the house, like a stingray's tail, some mummified animal parts, and a bunch of prayer books. I don't know if they were really prayer books. It was so weird because we regularly went to church. I was baptized and had my communion. But then there was this underlying belief system in my household that wasn't Catholic at all. Excuse me. I lost my place. Hold on. I do have a personal experience back in the seminary, and I accompanied my father master to what was supposed to be an only anointing of the sick. Turns out it wasn't as simple as all that, and since father wasn't a trained exorcist, he refused the case, or referred the case to the diocese. I have been possessed. People get cured, and then a statue of Mary was passing them. I will never forget those two loud wails I heard, and then watch those two people collapse to the ground. Nothing serious, but before I was born, my mom lived in a house with Hiram, the landlord. Said he liked to mess around, but if you said, "Hiram, stop it," he would. Sure enough, the curtains were moving around, no airflow in the room, and my mom said, "Hiram, leave my curtains alone," and they came to a dead stop. Another fun story is my mom was trying to loosen a bolt in the toilet, and it refused to budge. Hiram, "Stop messing with my toilet." Bolt unscrewed easily after that. Jokes aside, I do believe in the paranormal to an extent. I pray that I never have to interact with evil or anything like that. I don't mess with Ouija, tarot, or anything like that. I'm not trying to invite anything in. I pray the St. Michael prayer and count on God to protect me, while not also being stupid by messing with demons or spirits. I'm sure you've heard it before. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious. I used to know someone that claims she was. And that was because of her food allergies. I don't know the full details, but I think she had a deliverance, or rather the Lord intervened and answered her prayers. She is Protestant. I believe I've been tormented by demons a few times, but I don't think I've been possessed. Although it's possible some of all of my manic episodes, I have bipolar disorder, had something to do with demonic afflictions. My Protestant roommate claims to have driven out something dark that was in a present and a former place he rented. I think Kenneth Copeland is demon-possessed. I once knew a holy priest who did exorcisms. We watched The Conjuring together, and he laughed throughout the film, saying that was ridiculous, but it had a good message. He didn't tell me any details about exorcisms, but he made it clear that they are not how Hollywood portrays them to be. I understood that it's not something that we should be particularly interested in for our own spiritual good. So I'm going to leave those videos right there. There's a lot there, and everyone's got their own, well, most people have their own personal belief system when it comes to possession of some sort. Lot of experiences, some probably true, some probably not. I do understand the purpose of, don't inviting it into your home, and don't become obsessed with it. But I also think that ignoring it and not being familiar, or at least aware of it, can't do you any favors either. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video or any of my videos, please go hit that like button. If you like any of the stories and stuff that I'm reading on here, hit the subscribe button. I try to put out as many videos as I can. But thank you for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.